Hello. In the previous video, we introduced the concepts of distributed information systems and more specifically client-server architectures. And we discussed two-tier client-server, the simplest form. In this video, we will expand the concept and discuss multiple-layer client-server architectures. As you can see from the description of a two-level client-server model, there is nothing preventing that server from, in turn, requesting services or data from still another server, higher up the hierarchy, and so on. This would lead to a client-server model with multiple layers or tiers or levels. Let's look at a specific example. Users of an integrated information system, an ERP, such as SAP, which is a large, complex system, would normally access it through a client module running on their PCs. They might access just a central computer running everything else. This would be a two-tier model. However, in large installations, users would often access from their client module a next layer or second layer or application layer that would include the software of the various applications or modules that make up the information system. For example, the sales module or the warehousing module or the human resources module or application. These various modules or applications could reside in just one or on several different server computers. Each of them would in turn issue requests for data or services to the next layer of servers, in this case the third layer, that in this example would encompass the database. Thus, this example of a three-layer client-server architecture would include client modules on the user's PCs, issuing requests to the application modules in the second layer that would in turn request data from the third layer, a common database located at the core of the system. If we want to extend the concept further, we could look at servers that talk to other servers in a slightly more horizontal manner. Let us discuss the example of an email system. In a mail system, you can install in your client device, PC, smartphone, the client module. And from there, you can access your mail server. This client module would take care of the interaction with the user, that is, of the graphical user interface. And it might eventually store some of the data locally, some messages and folders. The server module would have the inbox. It would be receiving the mail from other servers and forwarding your own mail. However, behind this first server, there would obviously be a network of other servers that would take care of the exchange of mail messages throughout the network. Thus, we can see there is a continuum from the strict concept of client-server to a more distributed architecture. Still another example involves access from web browsers. Very often, rather than specialized client modules, what we would be using in our client node or system would just be a web browser, or web client such as Chrome or Internet Explorer. With a web browser, we can have a simple two-tier architecture if the web browser just accesses over the Internet a web server that hosts pre-existing web pages. The browser would then request pages, and the server would provide them, leading to a two-tier model. However, if we want to access from a web client an application, such as a library system, in order to borrow a book, our web client would first access an intermediate web server. The server would then translate the format, understand what is being requested, and then pass on the specific application request to an application server that would contain the logic and the data, the library system as such. If we have, for example, requested a book to be lent, the result of this request would then come back again through the intermediate web server to the web client. This would be, again, an example of a three-tier client-server architecture. To finalize this section, let me highlight that several of these models can coexist simultaneously in the same application, thus allowing each user to choose the most convenient approach. For example, many mail systems can be accessed directly from a web browser, but they also offer users the option of installing a client module in their client device. Thus, as a summary, we can see that in addition to distributed systems infrastructure or communications infrastructure, we can have distributed information systems. There are various architectures. The most common is the client-server architecture that can exist in the simplest form in a two-tier client-server, but can also exist in a multiple-layer format that gradually expands or moves into a distributed architecture. Thank you.